Hey guys, Jim here. Thanks for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Today I want to do a video response for my good friend James, Elite Hunters here on YouTube. And James, he's got an amazing vintage collection, and he was having a conversation with Saul, BD Kane here on YouTube, who has an awesome modern collection. And, they were having a conversation, or maybe it was a debate about, why we love to collect vintage over modern, or in Saul's case, modern over vintage. And so James reached out to the community, and he wanted fellow collectors to do a video response and explain why they love to collect vintage over modern. And so I think that's a great idea. And of course, I got to throw my 2 cents in here, as I do love collecting vintage. For me, the tip of the iceberg is I love everything old. I have antique furniture in my house. I have an antique telephone that we really don't even use. We have a landline that we don't use because, of course, we use our cell phones. But I have it. I have the phone. It's a rotary dial phone. And in the unlikely event, the rare event, somebody calls the house, it has a great ring to it. And it's cool. And I had, up until a couple of years ago, I had a antique car, a 1954 Chevrolet. And I just like old stuff. I like finding old stuff. I like researching the history, learning about it. And so, that falls right in line with vintage baseball cards. So I just love collecting vintage. I don't mind modern cards either. Not that I hate them. I do see some that I think are really nice looking. But for me, when I'm buying cards, if I'm going to spend money, I'd prefer to spend my money on buying cards of players who have been there, done that, and are in the history books, as opposed to players that might be good, might be great, or might not. So that's my personal feeling. If you disagree with that, that's fine too. That's the great thing about this hobby, is we can all collect any way we want, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. So this is just for fun, and it's just basically my opinion, and that's it. So the links for James and Saul are both going to be in the description. And two, I want to give a shout out to Tsean Shannon. The thumbnail I'm using for this video it's his thumbnail, and he very graciously said that I could use it. And if you're not following Tsean Shannon, I think you'd like what you see there. He's just a very entertaining guy, very funny guy, and I love the way he looks at cards and talks about them. And go check him out if you're not familiar with the channel. Again, the link for his channel also will be in the description. So thank you, Tsean, and thank you, James and Saul, for starting the conversation. Now I'm going to flip my phone around. I'm going to show some cards, and I'm going to talk about some other reasons, aside from the ones that I just mentioned, why I love to collect vintage baseball cards. So I have some really great memories of my father and my grandfather talking about the old players that they admired when they were younger and that they had seen play. And I kind of have a connection to those players, through their stories and through remembering their conversations that they had about, different players and different eras of the sport. And so my father, he claims, that his collection got thrown out by his mother, but he did have a handful of cards that he somehow survived, and he passed down to me, and I still have those cards. Here's this Jimmy Pearsall. My dad, he was a big fan of Jimmy Pearsall. Often talked about him. Don Drysdale. Duke Snyder, 1960 tops. I also have a few others here that I got from my dad that I had graded a few years ago. Hang on to these since I was a kid and still have them, so they have great sentiment to me. as far as where they came from. So all these cards belong to my father. And so, you know, that's a connection with vintage that I have, that I got, you know, through my family. So another reason why I love vintage is because of the history and the stories and the great players of the past. And so here's a good example of 1922 Nielsen's Chocolate, Jake Dorbert. Now, when I bought this card, I had no idea who Jake Dorbert was, and I just thought the card was cool. It was Nielsen's Chocolates, which I wanted an example of from the set in my collection, and I came across this card. I purchased it, and then I researched about Jake Dorbert. Now, Jake Dorbert was a really great player. He was a two-time National League batting champion. He played for the Cincinnati Reds, and he also won the Most Valuable Player Award for the National League, one-time winner, and he batted over 300 for 10 straight years through the dead ball era. So he was a really, really, really good player, and I love this card. You know, when I think of vintage, this is kind of the picture I get in my mind of kind of like this design. And after I bought it, it wasn't graded, and I ended up having it graded. So there's the Nielsen's Chocolate. And you know, with pre-war especially, they're tough to find. This particular card, there's only 11 total graded between SGC and PSA. And you know, like I said, with pre-war, you know, during World War II, they had paper drives, and not just in the United States, but most of the Allied countries had paper drives, and, you know, they were collecting paper, and during that time, there was a big sense of national pride, and people who weren't actually in the war wanted to do anything that they could do to help out. And, you know, these paper drives where they just collected paper and stuff like that. I mean, these baseball cards were considered disposable, and I'm sure many, many baseball cards from, you know, the 40s and 30s and 20s and beyond, before that, were sent into these paper drives and they were destroyed. So, you know, it's not that, you know, like modern cards where Topps says we're gonna make 50 of these blue tinted swirly cards, and we're going to number them to 50. And, you know, that this is a different kind of rarity. This is kind of organic, where, you know, probably wasn't you know, like nowadays, Topps, I think their base set, they're well over a million cards of each one produced. I mean, these were much, much less print runs, obviously. And then, you know, just the fact of the matter is that not many of them survived. And that's organic, real, natural rarity, in my opinion. Now, here's a card that has a great story behind it. First of all, there's two great players on this card. There's Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth right there. And this photo was taken as Ruth and Gehrig were kicking off a barnstorming tour, and this was shortly after the World Series, and they were promoting a World Series rodeo that they were doing to raise money for the Children's Hospital in New York City. And just a great story behind this card. And of course, two of the game's all-time greatest players right there. And I want to give a shout out to my good friend Andy over at D's Collection here on YouTube. When I originally showed this card, Andy reached out to me and told me about John Fogerty's center field music video. There's a 4-second clip in that video that actually shows Babe Ruth climbing up onto this car like minutes before this photo was taken. So really cool to see that. And if you're not familiar and you haven't seen that video, it's an awesome video that any baseball fan would love. So I'll leave a link in the description there as well for Dee's collection and the John Fogerty video if you want to check that out. So there's that one. Now again, just rarity, this 1922 W575-2 Rube Marquardt. Now say what you want about Rube Marquardt, and we can debate his greatness at another time, but he is a Hall of Famer, and this card is from 1922. And again, this card is just rare. It's organic. It's not rare because a company only made so many of them. It's rare because not that many of them survived. This particular card, there's only 8 total graded between PSA and SGC. And of course, that's not the be-all, end-all. We know that there's probably raw examples out there in collections, but it's still there's not a lot of them regardless. So there's the Rube Marquardt. And again, now this card came over from Cuba. This is the father of one of my all-time great players, Louis Tsean. Rest in peace, just passed away recently. And this was his father. His father was a great player in his own right. And this card was from Cuba. And there's only 5 total graded between SGC and PSA on this one. So that is pretty rare in itself. And this one I just had to sneak in there because it's a recent acquisition. I showed it on my last video. And I just love this card. It's 1937 OPC. You don't see a lot of examples of this Jimmy Fox out there. And I think it's just a great looking card. Just a giant Jimmy Fox towering over the field with unknown players in the background there. So just wanted to get that one in again just because. And, you know, all those cards, most of those cards there are all black and white. But, you know, like Martin, vintage has its color, beautiful colors as well. And again, here's another card, 1949 Bowman, Eddie Waitkus. Now, Eddie Waitkus has a great story. Again, like I said, I love learning about the players and the cards and the sets. And, you know, Eddie Waitkus is considered the natural because, you know, some people think the Natural movie was made off his life because he had a similar situation where, you know, he was a deranged female fan tried to kill him in his hotel room and he was shot, and very similar to the movie. So, you know, there's Eddie Waitkus, and that's just a beautiful card. I love 49 Bowman. The background colors are just beautiful, and another card with a great story behind it. Now getting into some more color and some beautiful artwork, which we also get on vintage cards. Here's Eddie Matthews. Just a gorgeous card right there. The colors are fantastic. The artwork is beautiful. Love 53 Topps. And here is Satchel Paige, the 53 Topps. And again, these guys are all great players, all, you know, guys that are in the record books, and, you know, they're just legends, some of these guys. Here's another beautiful card. The green background here is just fantastic. Mel Ott. Love that card as well. This is one of my all-time favorites. 54 Red Hot. Stan Musial. The reds in this card are just absolutely beautiful. Just love the colors there. So as you can see here, vintage has its color and its beauty as well. Here's Ted Williams. Again, just the beautiful, beautiful colors, beautiful image, and all-time great player. A player my dad talked about, a player my grandfather talked about. A legend in Boston. I live in New England, as most of you know, and you know, Ted Williams is a legend in New England, and everybody knows who Ted Williams is around here, even people that are just casual fans. So there's that connection with Ted Williams. This beautiful Warren Spahn. Love the colors. Again, 49 Leaf is the same with the colors. They're just beautiful. Again, Al Kaline, one of the game's greatest players. This is his rookie card. And again, just love the image, love the photo of a young player. The colors are fantastic. The old Tigers logo there on the card. You know, stuff you don't see. You don't see logos like that on modern cards. Here's a play ball. Play balls are just beautiful. We got the pastel colors. And there's Joe Cronin. 1934 Diamond Stars. Mickey Cochran, again, was a great player. And again, you know, you learn about these players. Well, Mickey Mantle was named after Mickey Cochran because Mickey Cochran was Mickey Mantle's father's favorite player, so he named his son after this great player who is depicted here on this beautiful card. And last but not least, I know James said he wanted short videos, but I just love looking at these cards and showing these cards. So sorry, James, this one's going to be close, probably over 15 minutes when I'm done, but this is the last card, and I love this card. Orlando Cepeda, this is his rookie card, and again, that red background is just stunning on that card. And so that's it. That's why I love collecting vintage baseball cards. Thanks to everybody who checked out the video and stuck in there till the end. Talk to you all soon. Bye for now.
Watching, Vicar Jim F, Lee Hunter, gotta go.